Peace and blessings. Welcome back to the channel once again, where we talk about all things health and healing from a holistic perspective, and today is no different. We're going to dive into the real cause of acid reflux. But before we do, let me first mention there's never one cause of any disease in the body, but there's always a predominant factor, and that's what we're going to be diving into today. And the reason why it's so important is because the way in which modern medicine treats this condition is actually totally backwards. When you look at, the modalities that they use to treat this. The other reason why this is so important as well is because 1 in 5 Americans are affected by this, sometimes upwards of 30%. And so it is a condition that affects many. And many of us sort of put it on the back burner or don't pay a lot of attention to it, even though it gives us discomfort, because it's not in those conditions that it strikes a lot of fear in people. But the unfortunate thing about this condition is that it leads to so many other dangerous things down the line. And so it is a very important conversation. And I think that once we have it today, you're going to be well informed on a natural approach to it. Okay. Now, let's first start with the importance of stomach acid. Okay. Because when you're experiencing acid reflux, the common theme is that you have too much acid. Okay. But once we go through the lesson today, what you're going to learn is that it's quite the opposite. Okay. It's important for us to know and understand everything in our body has a function. Okay. Nothing is a mistake. Okay. And so if something starts to dysfunction, it's because something caused the dysfunction. And I've dove into that many a time, but often the dysfunction is started with an irritation, leads to an inflammation. The inflammation inflames the tissue. The inflammation in the inflamed tissues leads to dysfunction. And once the tissue is dysfunction, it can dysfunction the entire organ system, which in this case could be the stomach. Okay. And so it's important to know and understand without that dysfunction, acid in the stomach is very, very important. So let's dive into a few reasons why acid in the stomach is so important. One, it protects us against infections. Okay, so one of the primary jobs of the acid in the stomach is, when we eat something, that's one of the primary ways that we introduce anything to our bodies. Okay. And it's not just food that we're eating. Sometimes a bacteria, virus, or whatever it may be on our hands and we consume it. When it goes down into the stomach, the job of the acid is to kill that virus, that bacteria, etc. Okay, so if you don't have enough stomach acid, in that case, you won't be able to properly defend against yourself, because that's the first line of defense. Okay. The other reason why stomach acid is so important as well, too, is because without stomach acid, even though you're eating your food, you probably won't get the proper nourishment from it. What I mean by that is this: if you don't break the food down, you don't get the nourishment out. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again. If you don't break the food down, you don't get the nourishment out. Okay, and that's one of the primary jobs of the stomach acid, is to break the food down. And one of those most important macronutrients that are supposed to be broken down are proteins. Okay, when you don't properly break down proteins, they cause our immune system to go haywire. Okay, and as this causing our immune system to spark, I think that's the best way to explain it. It is going to lead to inflammation. Okay, it's also going to lead to allergies. It's also going to lead to the immune system not only inflaming the gut, but also inflaming the body, which could also lead to autoimmune conditions. And it's really important that we understand this is what also could increase the amount of infections in the body as well, too. Okay. The other reason why stomach acid is also so important is because, it prevents, as I mentioned before, certain bugs like H. pylori. Okay. H. pylori is a bacteria that, can, for a lot of people, you have it in the stomach, but because you have stomach acid there, it can't thrive. Okay. But what it's attempting to do is increase ammonia in the stomach, which is going to alkalize the stomach, make the stomach less acid. Okay. And then it's going to decrease the amount of acid in the stomach so it can flourish. Okay. And the downside to that is H. pylori is not only a very nasty infection, but it's a very difficult infection to get rid of as well too, okay? And also what's important is as a result of having all of these issues, with stomach acid, you're going to end up having a lot of gas, bloating, indigestion. Those are some of the telltale signs in the beginning. And typically what you'll see is that pH in the stomach, which is supposed to be between 1 and 3, which is like battery acid, that pH starts to rise and become alkalized. And once your pH in your stomach, the acid becomes alkali, you're in big trouble. I mean, you can't break down certain foods to get certain minerals out. You're going to be vitamin B12 deficient. You're going to be potassium deficient, magnesium deficient, calcium deficient. Anemia will start to play a role too, because now you're going to have issues with getting iron as well too. So a lot of people could be suffering, with anemia as a result of having issues with their stomach acid. Okay, so this is why I say this one condition could play a huge role in our overall health. Okay, now what's important to know and understand is that when we eat food and we swallow it, it goes down the esophagus, and then we instantly think it goes directly into the stomach, which it does. But what's important to understand is before it goes into the stomach, there's this sphincter, okay? This little round sphincter that is closed off. And as food is coming in, it opens, okay? As food goes through, it's supposed to close. Why is that? Because what often people experience who have acid reflux is that when they have acid reflux, when they lay down at night, lay down horizontally, the acid goes from the stomach into the esophagus, okay? Sometimes up to the throat. And it can cause an irritation and even cause issues in terms of like burning the throat and the esophagus to the point where you need surgery. And this can actually lead to throat cancer. Okay, so it's really important to know and understand that that sphincter plays a huge role too. Now, what happens, unfortunately, with acid reflux is that sphincter is now opening. People don't ask the question, why is the sphincter opening? It's opening for a few reasons, but namely because there's a relationship, a direct correlation between the pH level in the stomach and the closure or opening of that sphincter. So what happens is as the pH begins to go down, that sphincter gets looser and looser. Okay, it opens. Okay, the other thing that plays a huge role as well too is as that pH goes down and also the level or the volume of acid in the stomach goes down as well too, it creates gas in the stomach. Okay, because what's happening is now you don't have enough food in the stomach. Enough acid in the stomach to actually break down the food. So what's happening? The food is staying in the stomach so long that it's rotting and fermenting. Okay? When anything rots and ferments in the stomach from staying in there too long with a little bit of acid, it will create a gas. That gas will then go up to the top of the stomach and the pressure of it will push against that sphincter and open it as well too. Okay, so you can see how this is all connected to each other. So it's so important that we realize that. So let's jump into what are some of those modern treatments whenever you do get acid reflux, because it can be a condition that is very uncomfortable. Often they will give you over-the-counter like Tums, okay? But there's side effects that comes with even Tums, even though they're over-the-counter, okay? You get gas, nausea, sometimes you get constipation, and it actually lowers your stomach acid. Again, you have to remember what I said. The lower your stomach acid gets, now it increases the risk for infections. It increases the risk for deficiencies. It also increases the risk for the immune system go haywire because now those proteins aren't being broken down. Okay, so it increases a lot of issues. So using Tums gives you temporary relief, but it lowers the stomach acid and continually does that because people don't take these things one time. They're taking them daily. They're taking them sometimes multiple times a day, okay? And it's constantly lowering down the volume of acid that is in the stomach. Also, Tums can actually lead to kidney stones as well too, okay? And that's really important. And that's a calcium issue or calcium balance issue as well, why it could lead to those kidney stones, okay? What other sort of modalities or, medications. Also H2 receptor blockers. But what are the side effects of those? Muscle pain. Okay. It also lowers stomach acid again. It also decreases sex drive. So we can just stop there, right? And then we have PPIs, and PPIs are some of the most widely used and some of the most successful drugs in the history of big pharma. Okay. In terms of, if you were to have a top 5 list of drugs that have sold the most in terms of like billions and trillions, PPIs are definitely up there. Now, what I want to give you a disclaimer at this point. The information here is just for educational points. This is not any medical advice. This is not me telling you what to do about your medications. If you're on medications, then you and your doctor need to work out how you take those or wean yourself off of those, okay? And when necessary. And the reason why that's so important is because even with PPIs, like if you're taking them, a lot of people take them for years. And I'll get into that in just a second. But the unfortunate thing that most people don't know is that you can have a rebound effect of, unfortunately, when you abruptly discontinue your PPI, it could actually cause you to have a really severe flare-up of your acid reflux. Okay, so you want to make sure, like if you're on one of these powerful medications, I'm going to talk about how powerful they are in a second. This is something you definitely have to work with your doctor in terms of how do you make changes in your lifestyle that then end up, you helping with this condition that leads to you then working with your doctor to kind of wean yourself off of those. Okay, so it's really important you understand that before I jump into that. And here's why. PPIs are very powerful. As a matter of fact, they work by blocking the gastric proton pump. Protons are essentially, the more protons you have, the hydrogens, the more acidic it's going to be, okay? That's what produces the acid in the stomach. They block that pump, okay? That's how they work. They're so efficient at blocking it, they block roughly 98 to 99% of the acid being produced in the stomach, okay? Now think about that in combination with what I just mentioned before, how important stomach acid is. Now you've relieved the symptoms. Okay, you relieve yourself of the symptoms, but you didn't address the cause. And so now you have some temporary relief, but the unfortunate thing is that you've made things worse, okay? In terms of like how the biology and physiology is set up, you've made things worse because what happens is all the things I mentioned before, increased deficiencies, okay? Increased risk for infections, okay? And the list goes on and on. So we have to understand that. And the reason why that's so important, I was talking to a few older physicians and I was talking to them about PPIs, and, the advice I was giving them was like, we really have to figure out a way to help people with acid reflux, naturally, because it is an issue of lifestyle. Okay. And they were saying, they agree with me. They were saying like when they first started having pharmaceutical reps come out to talk to them about proton pump inhibitors, PPIs, these were drugs when they initially came out. It had a warning on there that said you should not use these more than 6 months. And I see people on these drugs for like 10, 15 years. Okay, so imagine lowering your stomach acid every day for 15 years, okay? And all of the impact, all of the deficiency, all of the increased risk of infections, the impact on other things. So matter of fact, let's jump into some of the side effects of proton pump inhibitors, okay? Some of the side effects: dizziness, okay? Headaches, muscle issues, okay? You can have literally muscle damage. You have an increased risk of dementia, okay? Increased risk of SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. That means the bacteria that is in your colon, where bacteria should be, because that's where you have a bowel movement from. The bacteria that is in your large intestines is now in your small intestines. Okay, that's dangerous, okay, to your health. The other sort of side effects that you also see is an increase in yeast in the body as well too. Because again, like they're very powerful, and They work very effectively at doing what they do. They lower the stomach acid, okay? Other issues are kidney problems as well too, okay? And all of these things can, compound it, also could lead to osteoporosis or brittle bones. It can lead to an increase in C. difficile, okay, which is an infection. It also can lower, of course, it's going to lower stomach acid, but increases deficiencies of magnesium, calcium, B12, also other minerals and vitamins as well too. So that's really important. And it also can increase the risk for stomach cancer. Okay, so just think about that. What that one drug giving you that temporary relief that is addressing the symptom, but not the cause. And that's what we want to get to. We want to get to the cause of it. Okay, because you can treat the symptom for years. As I mentioned before, people are on these drugs for 10, 15 years. And it can treat the symptom, but the unfortunate thing, if it doesn't address the cause, the damage as a result of that dysfunction, which is acid reflux, is happening to the body. And so it's so important that we actually address the cause. And then as I mentioned before, when you think about all of these three modalities that they use, H2 receptor blockers, TUMS, PPIs, they all lower the stomach acid to a point where it's too low, it's deficient. Okay. And you may be saying, well, if they lower the stomach acid, then, and the issue is low stomach acid, then how did that happen? Well, that's for another video. We'll jump into that. But what's important to know and understand is our diet plays a huge role in lowering our stomach acid. Okay. And when I start to talk to you about some of the solutions, it will make more sense. Okay. But what's important to know and understand is that if you have low stomach acid, you're going to have deficiencies. You're going to have low stomach acid actually leads to heartburn, leads to GERD, okay? And also leads to acid reflux. Low stomach acid by itself leads to those conditions, okay? So it's so important that we know and understand that. And so, again, some of those conditions lead, those issues with low stomach acid leads to deficiencies in zinc. Okay, we need zinc for our immune system. Potassium, we need that for our blood pressure. Iodine, we need that for our thyroid. Chloride, we need that to increase the acid in our stomachs. Okay, so it's so important that we know and understand that it has this sort of interdependent effect on the body when the acid in the stomach is low. Okay, and so I'm going to give you a few ways. I'm going to give you 4 ways to actually increase the stomach acid naturally. Okay. And I think that's really, that's the whole point of it all. If you can't correct the issue, if you can't address the cause, then the unfortunate thing is you can treat the symptoms for years and never have any impact on the actual dis-ease in the body. But the worst part is that you're always going to be having damage occurring during that time. Okay, so let's get into the 4 ways that you could actually increase the amount of acid in the stomach. Okay. Again, you increase the amount of acid in the stomach, you're not going to have that gas formation in the stomach that's going to sort of put pressure and open up the sphincter, okay, to allow the acid to actually come in the esophagus and up to the throat, okay? You increase the amount of acid in the stomach. Now you don't have these deficiencies that also could cause that sphincter to open as well too. And so it's so important that you understand that this is the work that you have to do. Nothing works unless you do. So number 1, chew your food. Number 1, chew your food. Now, why is that important? The more you chew your food, some of the enzymes that are in your saliva, salivary amylase and others, are there to actually break down the food. But if you just have a couple of chews and then swallow, which is what most people do, the unfortunate thing is you're not going to use those enzymes to break down some of your food, specifically the carbohydrates. Okay, so it's so important that you know and understand that. All right. So you got to chew your food. You can't chew your food 1 or 2 times and hope that that's going to be enough for the food to be broken down in such a way that when it goes down into the stomach, that is going to be, mushy enough so that the stomach acid can easily break it down. Because stomach acid really doesn't break down carbohydrates per se. It specifically breaks down proteins. Okay, really, really important. So chew your food. I think the rule of thumb is like chew 32 times before you swallow. And a lot of people, a lot of times when I'm at dinner with friends or out with friends or friends are over and we're eating, they'll notice that I'm just chewing and chewing and chewing. They're like, is the food hard? I'm like, no, it's not hard. I have to chew my food. All right. Number 2, eliminate processed foods, especially carbs. Especially carbs. Okay. Eliminate processed foods, especially carbs. One, because a lot of the toxins, a lot of the food chemicals that are actually in the processed foods are causing a huge issue in not only the health of the stomach, but also the production of acid. And it's also important to know and understand, because they're processed foods, our bodies really don't know how to break them down. Okay. And when food can't be broken down, food has to literally be broken down into a mush. They call it chyme. It has to be broken down into a mush before it actually can go into the small intestine. So when you eat your food, it goes down the esophagus into the stomach. It has to be broken down into a mush before it can go into the small intestines. If it's not properly broken down, what's going to happen is it's going to sit in the stomach. It's going to rot and ferment in that little bit of acid, and it's going to create gas, and it's going to create the effect that you know as acid reflux. Okay, so eating processed foods, the food can't break down because our bodies can't recognize it, and because it can't recognize it, it can't metabolize it, it can't break it down, it can't utilize it. Okay, hugely important. So get rid of the processed foods. Number 3, eat fermented foods and vegetables. Okay, foods and vegetables. Okay, fermented foods and vegetables help to increase the acid in the stomach as well. One of my primary ones is sprouted coconut. Sprouted coconut, the sprout that is inside of the coconut is actually fermented. So that's what I use as my fermented food that I eat, and it's a bun replacement. So now I'm not eating carbohydrates as well too. And if you want to see what one of those looks like, go to our website, iHeartFruitBox.com, and you can check out what a sprouted coconut looks like. But that's what I use for my fermented food. Okay. And number 4, the final one, ginger. Okay. Add ginger to your food, add ginger to your teas, drink ginger tea in the morning. Also take ginger shots as well too. Now I warn you, with the ginger shots, there's nothing to play with. Okay. So you want to ease yourself into it initially. But taking ginger shots also could be very helpful in combination with adding ginger to your food as well too. So I hope that these have been useful. I hope that you've enjoyed understanding acid reflux from a totally different and holistic perspective, minus the doorbell ring. But again, understand nothing works unless you do. So tap into those 4 that I mentioned before, and then let me know later on how it works out for you. Until the next time, peace and blessings and Godspeed.